Syngenta Crop Protection Canada and C&M Seeds present the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com.
I think it's always difficult to make a blanket statement to say you should do this or you should do that. But this year, at least in Manitoba, where seeding is getting pushed back a little bit later, probably in order to get the best yield potential for your crop, a guy would really want to concentrate on seeding now, and maybe he can get some help from a third party or a retailer to do some pre-seed or post-seed pre-emerge spraying. Every field is different. I think a guy's got to look at his fields and decide what crop am I going into and how bad are the weeds, because if you're going into a crop like peas or like flax where you don't have a lot of in-crop options, probably getting a pre-seed burn-off or a post-seed pre-emerge burn-off is pretty darn important. Whereas if you go into some cereal crops or canola crops, you've probably got pretty decent options in crop to get rid of some of those weeds. So I think you have to look at your fields and decide which ones do I really need to get a pre-emerge or pre-emerge burn-off on, and those are the ones that you need to concentrate on. Some of the risks of not doing a pre-seed burn are obviously, so if you've got some overwintering annuals or weeds that are already pretty big by the time you get to seeding, and you don't kill them off with your tillage. I mean, the tillage operation you have, if you're a minimum till, you're probably not going to get those weeds killed off when you're in seeding. So you can get those weeds pretty big out of stage for in-crop. Some of the work we've done at Syngenta with the research trials, part of the total approach actually, is to see what we lose for yield if we don't get burn-off in that field. And we've seen it where there's no weeds, of course, there's no yield advantage to using the burn-off, whereas if there's lots of wild oat pressure, we've seen a yield penalty of up to 18 bushels, which is a huge number, just because of not getting that pre-seed burn in. On average, we seem to see 5 to 6 bushel increase in wheat from using a burn-off. I mean, is there such a thing as an average field? I don't know, but on average, 5 to 6 bushels. So there's quite a yield penalty in most fields if you don't get that burn-off before the crop emerges. And a lot depends on the weeds. Like I say, it could be dandelions, thistles, wild oats, they're obviously going to scavenge a lot of the nitrogen. But if you're looking at just small annuals just popping up just the day that the crop is emerging, obviously the yield penalty is not as big. So yeah, if you missed your burn off and now you're faced with a field, I think you take it field by field basis on when you're going to spray. If you always have a window, you have a window on the crop stage and you have a window on the weed stage, right? And a window for the herbicides. So if it's wild oats, for example, if heavy wild oat pressure, we want to spray those out as quickly as we can, because we know from North Dakota data, wild oats in the field left unsprayed can take a yield from 47 bushels down to 18 bushels. So there's a huge yield penalty. Lots of the work that the RBD guys have done for us at Syngenta and the total approach has shown that a well-timed graminicide increases the yield or saves 25 bushels per acre of wheat. So if you look at Manitoba Agriculture's yield penalty for letting wild oats grow in the crop, if you have one wild oat per square foot, which is one leaf stage ahead of the crop, that's a 10% yield penalty. If it's at the same stage as the crop, that one wild oat per square foot, then that's a 6% yield penalty. And if the crop is one leaf stage ahead of the wild oats, it's a 3% penalty. So that's quite a yield penalty. So an average wild oat infestation would be somewhere around 2 wild oats per square foot. So now we're looking at a 20% yield penalty if those wild oats are ahead of the crop. So if we're in a field where we didn't get a burn off and the wild oats are a leaf stage ahead of the cereal crop as it's coming up out of the ground, probably as soon as we get into a window where the crop can take the herbicide safely, we'd want to get those wild oats sprayed out at the 2 to 3 leaf stage. If you're in a field where it's a pretty clean field, there's no harm in waiting a little bit and wait till the wild oats are in the 2 and 3 leaf stage, maybe the crop's already up to the 4 leaf stage, and then take them out in a timely manner and you don't worry about a second flush of weeds coming through.